With immediate effect, Daniel Ricciardo is leaving RB and Liam Lawson is replacing the Honey Badger for the rest of the season after what was a pretty poor 2024 season and an end to Daniel Ricciardo's career. The dive-bombing Honey Badger from Australia has given us so many laughs, so many beautiful overtakes, and just great moments to talk about in our beautiful sports. He's a driver that I think will always be remembered, and while he's not a world champion, he is a 3-time pole position carrier, 8 victories, 32 podiums, 14 seasons, and countless amounts of dive bombs and smiles from this beautiful driver. But the situation over at Red Bull and VCARB has definitely been handled very poorly on the leaving and farewell of Daniel Ricciardo. For a driver of his caliber to leave on this note with not a big exit to our sport in Abu Dhabi where he could have been celebrated for how good of a career he actually had regardless of the last couple of seasons, and getting a greater goodbye by the Formula One fans that love him so much. He's probably one of the most loved drivers ever to grace our sport because of the amount of smiles he's given us, and genuinely what a great guy he is. Everybody on the paddock talks about how much they love Daniel. As you can see with his relationship with any teammate he's had, they've all had a very fond respect of who he is. And of course, it's not making people smile and personality that's going to keep you into the sport. I do agree with him leaving, I just don't agree with how it's done. But the performance speaks for itself. When this guy joined the sport in HRT, he was outperforming a very, very garbage car that could get nowhere near the points, and you could see he had some talent. He joined then the Toro Rosso at the time, did very well there, beat Sebastian Vettel in his first year in 2014 against the guy who just won 4 championships in a row, then continued to be competitive in Red Bull and actually beat out Max Verstappen in 2 seasons with the possibility of a third if it wasn't for all the technical DNFs that he ended up getting. Did a crazy shock move going to Renault, then went to McLaren, and that is where the career of Daniel Ricciardo started to take the downfall, but it should not be forgotten how good this guy was. It was only known to us on about Friday or Saturday time that this could be possibly Daniel Ricciardo's last race, and that's only because the way that he spoke about it, and with the interview that he gave us on Sunday where he was pretty much tearing up and talking about how he appreciated what the sport has done for him, and that if this is his last time, he can leave with a bit of grace and not feel as bad as he did when McLaren dropped him. It was weird to have no confirmation because it makes no difference that they told us just now on September 26th, rather than telling us on when the GP was starting on Friday or Saturday. At least in Singapore, there could have been a celebration for him, given him maybe a couple of donuts to go out with. Here, he just had to end up park the car. We had to watch him be in his car for a very long period of time, trying to savor those last moments in an F1 cockpit. And the treatment this guy got for his last race was far from what a race winner should deserve. He leaves gracefully, obviously, and thanks the team for what he's done for him, but that's just who Daniel Ricciardo is. He can always find something good in every bad scenario. The VCARB team has thanked him as a whole, but you gotta think about it also from another perspective. That team, VCARB itself, with the amount of sponsors that they have and what they've been able to collectively grab for the team, they should be thanking Daniel a lot for that. And I'm talking about the big sponsorships as well. This guy is the face of marketing. If you look at Hugo Boss, he's one of the most advertised drivers on that advertising board. And for any team this guy has joined, he's brought sponsors along with him because he's probably one of the most advertisable guys ever in F1. So a little bit of respect could have been shown from both Red Bull and VCARB to obviously give him a good send-off. But if this is what we get, I want to thank Daniel Ricciardo for being in our sport, providing us with everything that he has. Genuinely made my day watching this guy. Back when he started, it was amazing to watch what he was able to do in that Red Bull. He was amazing in the Renault. He gave us some great times, even in this AlphaTauri and VCARB days. What a beautiful driver and what a career. Thank you, Daniel. Hopefully you hear this one day. But of course, it has to be said in the other way as well. Red Bull did give this guy another chance when it could be argued, did he actually deserve to come back in the sport and show himself off again? And he did have an opportunity to do so. He didn't make the best out of it, so it has to be commended. Red Bull did give him the position to try, and VCARB really tried to make himself comfortable, but it's clear what happened in the McLaren days cannot be erased. And recently in a podcast, Yuki even talked about what it was like when he was driving behind Daniel and how it looked like when he was driving the car. It looked so irregular to the rest of the grid, and it was clear that this guy was not driving the way that he used to. Countless times, Christian Horner has talked about that the bad habits that he developed in McLaren had to be strung out from him when driving again in the simulator, and you could see exactly where he was going wrong and what that McLaren did to his morale. But of course, this was more a matter of time rather than if, and Liam Lawson is super deserving of the seat, and I'm very happy that he has a chance in these 6 races to show off whether he has potential to be Max Verstappen's teammate or not. Now, obviously, this is going to be a test for Liam to see whether he's good enough to be in the Red Bull, and can he actually be that second guy to help them in the Constructors, possibly win it in 2025, because 2024, there's no way this Red Bull car is going to come out and be the top victor with Sergio Perez in the seat, regardless of whether he changes his season or not. He proved a lot in the 5 races that he had. When he did replace Ricciardo, it was pretty clear that this guy deserved a Formula 1 seat, and nothing should be taken away from him. He's like any other F1 driver. He's going to come in, he's going to try and be as competitive as possible, and of course, if you're given the opportunity, regardless of who it is, you will take their seat. It's definitely the right move having this guy. In those 5 races, with the exception of Qatar, he pretty much beat out Yuki or was right on par with him, which was something Daniel throughout a season couldn't really keep up with. He wasn't bad in the races, but in qualifying, he was constantly back. And thankfully, he was always great on his tires just due to experience and was able to come back, but not enough to be able to chip the Japanese driver. It'll be interesting to see now with more simulator time and driving other previous cars. He's already driven the VCARB in Monza in testing, so Liam does have kind of a grip on the car. So in Coda, he should be able to jump in, do pretty well. It's a tough track to get a grip on, but it'll be very nice to see where he is competitively right now with Yuki. If he is beating out Yuki, it's going to put Yuki in a very tricky position as well for 2025, which was already kind of the rumors anyways around it. We weren't even sure if he was going to drive 25, but he had a great start to the season, and he's beaten now a very experienced teammate and a race winner at it. What are your guys' thoughts on the whole situation? I definitely think this could have been handled much more professionally from the side of Red Bull and VCARB. As I said, I do think it's disrespectful to leave him out of the sport like this. It's not something a driver of his caliber deserves. Most drivers, I would say, could be dropped out like this, but a guy that's a race winner has provided so much for the team and in general for Formula 1. The viewership that he provided in Netflix's even Drive to Survive, that was the biggest face of Drive to Survive and a big reason as to why people stepped into the sport, and a big reason I think people are actually going to stop watching is because of Daniel Ricciardo. I do think it's now to less of a degree, obviously since he's been driving an AlphaTauri and VCARB, he's had way less of a popularity there than he did in McLaren or Renault or Red Bull, but the guy should be thanked, and I thank him for definitely being a big contributor to as to why I really love this sport. And he's never necessarily been my favorite driver, but I've always loved and respected him. You can't not respect a guy that said lick the stamp and send it when everything he does is pretty much ascend into every single corner, and he somehow gets the move completed, whether it's a lockup or not. The guy was just overall impressive. It was very fun to watch, and thank you, Daniel Ricciardo, for giving us so many times to talk about. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the comments below. Obviously very sudden, but we all expected it, so I'd love to hear what you guys think. And what are your thoughts on the whole situation, whether it's disrespectful or not? Please leave a like and subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.